All right, welcome back to the SSL Family Dad channel. Today we are out in the fall garden here in Michigan. Everything that we're going to see today is stuff that we planted just last month in August, and it's just about mid-September now. So I thought I'd give you guys an update on how things were doing. We're going to talk a little bit about some nutrient deficiencies and how to kind of identify those, and in general what to do about it. And we'll look at kind of how things have been going here in the late garden for us. So we planted all these things late. These are all short-term crops that will germinate, get to maturity, and produce fruit within 60 to 90 days. And that's what we're looking at here. So on the end of the garden here, we have these are the long season crops. Everything here in the raised bed, this is all peppers here, bell peppers, and then we've got the tomato row here. The peppers we actually planted earlier in the year. We started those inside, and those actually have had a pretty good full season, although we didn't get as early of a start as I would like on them. And these tomatoes, we actually got at like a half-off sale, late season sale at Ace Hardware or something. I think we planted these in July, and surprisingly, they're actually doing pretty well, and they've been producing some tomatoes for us. So I just have these staked up just like I always do. I've got the pallet wood stakes in there. I've done lots of videos on that. This one here got so heavy that it fell over, and we actually I had a bad pallet stake in there. It was broken anyway. But these tomatoes have been doing very, very well. We'll have lots of tomatoes that will be coming off these guys here shortly, and you can see we've got some pretty good looking tomatoes in here. So, and the bell peppers, I think these are all California Wonders. They've been doing pretty good. They got kind of a bad start out here because they kind of got laid over and buried in a bunch of weeds before I started getting out here and taking care of them. But you can see we've got a lot of peppers in here that are ready to harvest. These could be harvested at any time. There's a bunch of them here. Some of them are laying on the ground and hanging everywhere in here. So we'll get quite a few. You can see a nice big one through there. So we'll get quite a few of these peppers this year for sure. Oh, look at that! Something's been eating them here. Virginia knows that whenever I'm out here, she gets scraps thrown at her. Next to that, we've got a lot of green beans. So these were all planted from seeds that I saved from the greenhouse garden that started early this year. So this is like the second or third crop of these beans that we've saved the seeds and just keep replanting them. And so we just planted a bunch of these, so we'll save a bunch more of these seeds, and we'll freeze pack a bunch of these. These are good, just little dinner sides and things like that. These are just a bush bean. Radishes all down the center here, some of which may go to seed, but all of which are ready to be harvested. You can see these guys are all probably bigger than they should be in most cases. We just don't eat a lot of radishes. I did this just as an example of a fall crop. To be honest with you, I might pull some of these out for a salad, but most of these will get fed to rabbits and pigs and things, just because we don't use them very much. Really like how this worked out with if you remember when I made this area, I dug out the center of these aisles and pushed it into these hills in the middle. So there was this big gap here in the middle that was dug out like a valley, and then I filled it with wood chips. And I have not weeded this at all in the middle. I have gone through and weeded through the rows, but it's been very, very light weeding. Along the pig pen, we have just kind of a mess. I spread wildflower seeds all throughout here, so I wasn't planning on weeding this, and I threw a bunch of zucchini in here because we had extras. But the challenge with growing zucchini or any squash in the late season here in Michigan is that you're going to end up with powdery mildew. It's just real hard to prevent. I do have some sprays and stuff like that I could do on these, but I honestly don't care that much about all these zucchinis. We're still going to get a huge harvest even if some of these die off. But what happens is in Michigan in the fall, it's very cloudy, and you end up getting just real cool weather. These stay damp, and it allows this powdery mildew to grow real quick on here. This also is an area that does not get very much sunlight, and so these did not grow quite as fast as some of the other ones I had in full sun, and you can see what happens. But we're still getting zucchinis. They're growing everywhere, and as soon as they sprout like this, if you've grown zucchini before, you know what happens. It'll be a week, and we'll have this one will be ready. You know, these guys they just grow so fast. And there's another one right there. Maybe I'll show this sometime if you haven't done this before. Actually, when my daughter learned this and did it for us, she made what's called zoodles. They're zucchini noodles. They're like thinly sliced shavings of zucchini, kind of fried in olive oil, and you can use them for spaghetti and stuff for people with gluten allergies, and man, were they good and way healthier than noodles. So So the Teepee Trellises over here, I just dealt with these kind of yesterday, put some twine around them and tried to start training things up. Once it, grew up about a foot or two, I wanted to kind of train them up onto the twine. These are all different types of pole beans around here that are not really growing very pole-like yet. There's been some of them that have been reaching and climbing up. You can see a couple here. This one is starting to kind of go up there, and some of the ones in the middle. But they have been just loaded with beans. I think these are kidney beans, and then we've got some other kinds of beans on the other side. These have been doing really well. I mean, they look really healthy, and they've just been, look at all the beans, and they're just loaded with beans. And this is a squash. I think this was this a summer squash? I'm not sure what kind of squash this was. I'll have to go back and look when I planted this, but there's a couple hills of squash around here, and this is vining out and flowering. I haven't seen any fruit yet. Oh, look at that. I spoke too soon. We've got one forming right there. And it looks like that one will turn into one also. Over here we have the cucumbers, and this is what you saw at the beginning of the video that I was dressing up, or top dressing here with compost. And so this is our fresh compost from earlier this year. This is chicken manures, pig manures, straw, wood chips, goat manures, bedding, grass clippings, leaves, hay bales, all kinds of stuff broken down. You can see some straw and hay and stuff like that still in here. But what I started to notice was leaves that look like this. And this is pretty common when you have some nutrient deficiencies. This can be a lot of things. It could be it's not getting enough sunlight. It could be micronutrients and other things. But most commonly, when you have a vegetable like this that's got real broad leaves, that's sucking up a whole lot of nitrogen when it's young and when it's growing. And you'll notice that the young leaves are doing pretty good, and then the older leaves are starting to yellow up and die. And so many times that could be a nitrogen deficiency, among other things. But most commonly nitrogen. Nitrogen is probably the most common thing that these guys need when they're in their first growth. Flowers look good, so usually potassium and other things will help, and phosphorus with flowering, and so I don't think that's an issue. So I just came around and top dressed all this with a bunch of compost, and I'll water this in today. And a lot of the organic matter and a lot of the nutrients that have already broken down in that soil, it's real fine. That'll soak through, and it becomes kind of soluble, and it'll get right to the top layers of roots in these cucumbers, and that should help give these guys a boost and green them up a little bit. And right next to the Teepee Trellises, we have just another little row garden section. This is Swiss Chard, which has been doing pretty good. It's starting to take off. We've got some of the yellow and some of the red, I think, in here. We don't eat a lot of Swiss Chard either. This is just something I plant every single year, and I just love how it looks in the garden, to be honest with you. But of course the rabbits and the animals love it, the goats love it, but we don't eat too much of it. I'll throw some of it in a salad now and then. I've done with kale and other things, but it's just not a huge thing on our list that we eat commonly. Carrots, those are coming in pretty good. These will have another 30 days to grow, so they should be, they'll be small carrots. They're not going to be huge. Carrots, you can really get 90 to 120 days to get them nice and big. But they should do okay. They're looking a little small here because of the shade. Did we even plant anything in that row? I don't know if we did. This could be a lettuce or a spinach. It almost looks like spinach. Oh, look at that. No, I'm just kidding, that's a weed. We've got a row of lettuce, and I really have not weeded this at all. So we've got some grass and stuff growing along the edges of this, but it has done pretty well as far as weeding goes, with the wood chips, piled right up to the edge of these rows, and really just have to come through and pick stuff out here. But this leaf lettuce is looking really good, nice and young and sweet, and this stuff is great to pick off and throw in salads right here. I love these bush beans. I don't know if it's because we have saved these seeds and they've been growing in our environment here for several generations or what, but they are so productive. They grow so well. I mean, you can just see how healthy these leaves are. Now, of course, these are all nitrogen fixers, so they don't need as much of that high nitrogen compost soil. But man, they just produce like crazy and so quickly. I mean, a week from now, there'll be so many beans on these plants that I won't be able to keep up with them. Someone is probably already typing this in the comments. Why didn't you just plant the beans mixed in with the cucumbers? Well, if I were thinking when I planted this hole out, I probably would have done that. I was more demonstrating the different crops that would grow in a fall garden, and I kind of wanted to see how all the beans would grow up together and the cucumbers grow up together separately on these teepee trellises. But that's a great point, whoever was typing that comment. These, being a legume, are a nitrogen fixer again, and so these guys planted intermingled with the cucumbers may have helped to solve the nitrogen deficiency that we may have in the soil over there. So that would have been a great thing to do, is just plant, you know, cucumber, pole bean, cucumber, pole bean, cucumber, pole bean, or mix peas in there or something else and around these trellises. And next year I probably will do that. We'll get these things growing all the way up to the top next year. The 2x6 raised bed here and here, man, are these things nice. They're so solid, and these were easy to build and cheap too. So I'll probably do some more of the 2x6 ones next year. If we have the funds to do more, I will. But these were just planted with kind of a different array of flowers, and you can see some of them have started to flower. There's also what I'm pretty sure is some weeds in here. Pretty sure that's weeds. These will be flowers. There's some more over there. And then same down the row here, there's a bunch of flowers growing in here. So in the next week or two, these will be loaded with flowers and it'll look real nice. Some kale, I think we actually accidentally planted. I think we spilled a seed packet in here and had a bunch of kale and some radishes and stuff growing in here. But this has been just decimated in the greenhouse that I have kale, and out here with these, you can see it, look at all the manures from these caterpillars and moths and stuff like that on here. And so I do have some neem oil and some diatomaceous earth and other things I could put in here to help to manage this. Look at them all right there. I didn't even see them there. They're hiding. They're just chowing down. Should bring some chickens in here. They'd find all these guys. Look at them all. Yeah, I didn't even see them. They blend right in. Looks like part of the stick, but that is a worm of some sort. There's some little ones in there. But what you can do with kale is you can just cut it right down and just leave the stalk in there. Then all the worms will go away. You can throw all this into your chickens or whatever, and they'll eat all that up. And then the worms will kind of go away for a while. It'll just decimate the population in the area, and then the kale will grow right back from the stalk. So kale's pretty hardy, even with all these critters munching down on it. It's still growing. This seems to be the thing that grows the best in the wood chips. These, I think these are dandelions. They've got this nice big tap root, so they can get down and grow through this stuff, I guess. But the wood chip stops everything else from growing except for these things. So the one thing that we did have this year was not a good year for blueberries. This is one of our blueberry bushes, one of the last surviving ones. I don't know if the rest of them will make it or not. We've got a few here and a few down the row there, and they just I don't know if it was a water issue. We didn't water as well, and these were new plants. They were 50% off, so maybe they're 50% alive. I don't know. One of the things with the blueberries, of course, they need a real rich soil and also a higher acidity. And so I think with the wood chip around here and these being real young, I probably should have composted these a lot heavier than I did. And I may get these wood chips away from them and compost around these guys to try to see if we'll salvage them. But it is that time of year for them to start losing leaves anyway. And so we'll see kind of what happens next year. In the spring, I may come around and just do a heavy compost on them to see if I can revive them. And here's a few zucchinis that were planted along our little orchard row here, and it needs to be weeded. But these are doing much better, and we've got another. That's the perfect size for zucchini right there. But these ones, you can see, we're getting a little powdery mildew on them, but not as bad as the stuff in the garden at all. And you can just see how much healthier and bigger these ones are. So they do a lot better in the full sun. Well, there's a lot more zucchini out there than I thought. Yeah, a good little handful of tomatoes for today. So this is about what we're getting every day. Maybe between 2 and 4 tomatoes is what we're pulling off of those plants. I think we have 10 plants that are planted there. Quite a bit shorter than what we had last year, which was I planted 75 tomato plants in this garden and another 75 in the back. So we had a lot more tomatoes last year. But the garden is doing well. This is the first time we've really grown or planted this late in the year, planted in August or a fall garden specifically with short-term crops. And so normally, you know, around this time of year, I'm just scrambling to harvest and preserve and can and freeze things. You know, last year we had sweet corn and carrots and tomatoes and all that stuff going at this time. And so this is kind of nice to spread things out a little bit, and we'll have our harvest mainly at the end of September and in October. So. And of course, don't forget, if you're in the area, if you're in Michigan or anywhere around Michigan, we'd love to have you come out this Saturday, September 21st. This is 2019, of course, for the Michigan Great Lakes Emergency Preparedness Expo. I think I got that right. I'm going to be doing a little presentation on sustainable preparedness or sustainable living and kind of sustainable practices and things like that at 11:45, and it's in Frankenmuth. So beautiful area to come and visit anyway in Michigan. And so I'd love to see you there. We'll have a little booth set up. We'll be there all day, so feel free to pop in. Love to have a chance to just say hi to some of you guys. So as always, guys, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button, and of course subscribe if this is your first time to the SSL Family Dad channel. Love to have you tag along, hit subscribe, and the bell, of course, to get notified for when we post new videos. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one.